Hello, welcome to MJRRPG. The following review is of the Call of Cthulhu scenario The Plague of the Pharaohs, written by Allan Carey, and the 12th and final entry in Type 40's Seeds of Terror series. As always, the first half of this review is largely spoiler-free, while the second half is full of spoilers. In short, The Plague of the Pharaohs is a linear, literal dungeon crawl with just enough colorful set pieces to keep the session interesting. Plague of the Pharaohs shares both the theme and simplicity with its opposite bookend, the Mummy of Pemberley Grange. Both obviously share the ancient Egypt motif, and both are extremely easy to run. Indeed, they're the simplest of the series, barely requiring a full read-through to get the gist before the session starts. While Pemberley Grange is more open-ended and has fewer and less elaborate set pieces, I feel it has more spontaneous complexity than its opposite and sister scenario. Plague is extremely linear, with little room for meandering shenanigans, but the handful of set pieces do keep it from ever being boring. As with all 11 of its preceding sibling scenarios, Plague of the Pharaohs is a tight little package. 7 pages are devoted to the main scenario text, 1 page for stats, and 3 pages of handouts. The handouts are among the best in the series, being both great to look at, thematic, and directly used in the scenario. Top-notch, good stuff. And as per the course, there are 5 varied pre-generated investigators. While there's a nice mix of professions and personalities as usual, there are less details given to each investigator as many of the preceding scenarios, but there also isn't as much foil for players to roleplay off of in the scenario either. The scenario itself is overall the most purely survival-focused of the series, with very little room for roleplaying unless players make the room themselves with some inter-character shenanigans. The investigators get stuck in an ancient Egyptian tomb and need to escape. Straightforward, though of course there will be some curveballs along the way. While the handful of set pieces give bursts of excitement, including my favorite threat in the entire series, and the dusty tomb makes for a nicely claustrophobic atmosphere, when compared to the rest of the Seeds series, Plague unfortunately struggles to stand out, and it also has extra competition from other Egyptian-themed scenarios, with Chaosium's The Necropolis and Obscuriate Waltzers The Maw. But when considering its space in the Seeds of Terror series, it is the only scenario of this style, helping it stand out more than it does when compared to the wider Call of Cthulhu scenario landscape. For players looking for a short and simple solve-the-problem sort of scenario with a dash of Seeds of Terror weirdness, Plague will probably be the go-to seed scenario there. Plague of the Pharaohs can be bought individually or in the Mummies and Madness 3-pack with the Mummy of Pemberley Grange and Flute of the Gods. From here on out is full-on spoilers, so if you don't want to know what is going to happen ahead of time, I would suggest stopping here. As I've already pointed out, The Plague of the Pharaohs is a very linear scenario, and as such is very easy to run, leaving me with little advice or suggestions to give. The investigators are wandering through the Egyptian desert when a sandstorm strikes, driving them into a nearby cave. They are soon trapped, of course, and find that the cave is actually a deep tomb. Their guides are missing, but helpfully left behind a map for the tomb. Rather suspicious. They then make their way through passages and rooms filled with hieroglyphs and murals, aka hints. There's plenty to pore over and make skill rolls to work out, but no threats or choices until one of the last rooms. Earlier on, the group passes through a room with 4 rotting taxidermy animals, one of which happens to be a hippo. Later, the same hippo bursts into a different passage, chasing and trying to crush the investigators. I've yet to see a scenario feature a hippo, much less an undead one, and as hippos are my favorite animal, this scenario immediately becomes amazing for me. The creature itself is quite dangerous with a healthy HP pool and some armor, and while its attack skills aren't all that great besides its basic attack, the bite skill, which has a typo, it should be 70% judging by its hard and extreme values, not 25% as written, but they all deal heavy damage, more than enough to chomp an investigator to death in a single turn if they're unlucky. Luckily, the investigators can easily flee through a narrow passageway, leaving the zombie hippo lodged in the entrance, blocking the way but unable to pursue. To make this a little more risky, if all the investigators choose to flee, I would do an opposed dex roll between the hippo and everyone else. Anyone who fails is caught by the hippo and has to deal with a round of combat. And for added urgency in the following scene, you could have the hippo slowly smash its way through the narrow passageway, giving the party 1d6 minutes or so to figure out the final puzzle before the beast returns with a vengeance. The final puzzle also holds up pretty well, as the players will need to have paid attention to the murals beforehand to understand what the consequences of their actions here will be. There's one final mural before them with a crack in it, showing that an escape path lies behind it. The players may have worked out by now that smashing the mural will also break a seal locking away an ancient evil. The mural can also be opened by reaching into a deep hole lined with rusty metal spikes to turn a key. This allows the party to escape safely, but whoever turns the key will shred their arm, potentially losing it entirely or even dying. The final option is to wait and simply die of thirst, or the hippo if you have it break through. The Plague of the Pharaohs is overall very short. It only took my group a little over an hour to complete. This is largely due to only having 2 decision points where the players have an impact on progression. If they stay and fight the hippo, the playtime could be lengthened, and the same goes for how long they take to figure out the final puzzle. If you need to stretch for time, or want a pulpy finale, you could force the hippo fight by having it pursue the party even if they do escape, ending the scenario with a battle in the Egyptian desert. And ending with hippos, which I'm always for. Once again, Plague of the Pharaohs can be bought individually or in the Mummies and Madness 3-pack with the Mummy of Pemberley Grange and Flute of the Gods. Both also very nice little scenarios. Thank you for listening. As always, credit to CryoChamber for use of their album Cthulhu. Until next time, have a good one.